What is up, my viewers? Maine-iac here with Week 6 NFL Power Rankings, or at least my version of them anyway. It is early, but I do have some things to do, so pardon if the upload is late. Mind you, like I said, I got things to do, so I'll try to push it out as soon as possible. Anyway, let's get into this so we can get it done as quick as possible. Our record so far is 18 minutes, but we want to make it relatively quicker. I'll try to go over brief explanations of why people are where, so forth. If you're new to this series, it should be in a playlist if you want to see previous opinions and stuff like that. On the right is going to be our biggest loser. On the left is going to be our biggest gainer. I'll try to explain almost every team's reason for jumping or sliding, so bear with me. At number 32, we have the Cardinals here. Now, they did come off their first win of the season against the 49ers, but one reason why I didn't move them out of the basement in last place was because they managed only 10 first downs. They did get turnovers and take advantage of them for the W, but that offense still looks terrible. The completion percentage from Rosen was awful. Christian Kirk had a nice 75-yard touchdown. Other than that, they still looked bad. But if they can use this momentum to at least bring a little bit more efficiency to the offense, it should be fine. And they should be on their way up. But one win, there's no team that's winless so far. That's good. At number 31, we do have the 49ers, and the reason why I don't drop them below the Cardinals is they did manage 30 first downs without their starting quarterback, without Richard Sherman, obviously, and stuff like that. It is incredible what they are doing. Bethard actually looks like a good cornerback. I think they should bounce back next week. It should be interesting. And then at number 30, we have the Oakland Raiders dropping one spot. Tough loss this week. Not looking particularly good when your only win is an overtime win against the Browns. But even then, that deserves some credit. They do drop one spot, mainly because of other performances than necessarily their own. And then at number 29, you have the New York Giants dropping, I believe, 3 spots, if I'm reading this properly. Yeah, the Giants dropped 3 spots. I just had it crossed out, so I just wanted to make sure. Odell Beckham, nice touchdown pass. Saquon Barkley, nice involvement in the passing game. Other than those two, though, the offense did look shaky. Defense looked shaky as well. They were facing a good team in the Panthers and did lose by a 63-yard field goal in overtime, or 63-yard field goal at the end of regulation is what I meant. Anyway, tough to necessarily. They did have a great performance against Carolina, but a loss is a loss. They were in position to win. Some costly plays, especially on special teams where the ball bounced off the Giants and gave Carolina a touchdown. That ended up costing them the game. And you need 3 complete phases to constantly compete, and it looks like they're always missing at least one phase in their team. Hopefully they put it together, because the New York market does crave success, and they deserve success. The New York fan base is extremely loyal, extremely sharp-minded, especially willing to criticize their own team, which I respect tremendously. Hopefully they get some W's for them. And at number 28, we have the Colts dropping 3 spots. They lost to the Patriots. They looked somewhat competitive later on. I don't know if T.Y. Hilton will be active this week. Obviously, it's Tuesday. I don't know the progression on his injury. But they suffered a lot of injuries this week during the Patriots, and they already are going through so many injuries. I wanted to drop them lower, but for some reason, even with all these injuries, their defense and offense is still finding relative success. I believe out of all these teams below them, they have the most capable quarterback, and that puts them just a notch above the other teams. And then I struggled putting them this high. I really did. I promise you they probably shouldn't be this high, but there's reasons. Number 27, we have the Buffalo Bills with 2 wins on the year over the Tennessee Titans and the Tennessee Titans and the Minnesota Vikings, 2 supposedly good teams, or at least at the time they faced the Bills, they were contenders, I guess is how you could label them. Allen didn't play well. McCoy played good. But overall, they didn't play great football, and they still won. This team can be dangerous, but this team, to me, feels like it beats the teams it's not supposed to, and it loses to the team that it's supposed to beat. Hopefully they can put together more consistency. Hopefully Allen can keep improving. It's going to be dangerous for them improving, but hopefully in the next couple of years they can find success. Buffalo did recently break their playoff drought, but one time, if they go another umpteen years without making the playoffs, the fan base is not going to be happy. Then you have the New York Jets, for me, gaining 2 spots. I know it's not a great jump, but they put together, I believe, a record-setting rushing game for the Jets. Isaiah Crowell did not see that coming at all. I did not. 219 yards, something like that. It was incredible. One reason why I didn't jump them up so much was it took a record-breaking performance to win, but they did win handily. They did. There's still some holes offensively and defensively, so if they put it together for a second consecutive week, I'll give them the respect they deserve. Trust me on that one. And then number 25, we have the Cowboys dropping 3 spots. And one reason why I dropped the Cowboys 3 spots here was coaching. And I do take into aspects all parts of the team: coaching, ownership, defense, offense, special teams. It's not just talent level. It's not just stuff like that. Jason Garrett, that decision in overtime spoke more to me than anything. It told me he was scared. You have Ezekiel Elliott, and you're supposed to have one of the better offensive lines in the league. Granted, hopefully Frederick gets healthy and comes back into football healthy. I don't want him to rush. I believe he's on IR now. But still, you don't, and even if it's a long yard, you give Ezekiel Elliott the ball. You listen to what Frank Reich said. You listen to what Mike Vrabel said. You do not play to tie. You do not punt it when you have a questionable secondary and DeAndre Hopkins on the other side. Because you might have held DeAndre Hopkins in relative check by then, considering the matchup standards. I should say the secondary against DeAndre, you would expect so much. But eventually he's going to break through, and he broke through. Those spin moves, your defense looks silly. But Jason Garrett, I can't rate them any higher as long as they have Jason Garrett and no true number 1 wide receivers. As Jerry Jones himself said, they haven't had one for several years. And then at number 24, we have the Detroit Lions. Really wanted to put them up a little higher, but the defense prevented me from doing it. They gained 3 spots, number 24. Not bad at all. Their 2 wins are against Aaron Rodgers and the Packers and Tom Brady and the Patriots, but more importantly, their 2 wins are Aaron Rodgers without half his weapons due to injury, and against Tom Brady without his top options, and his top options being Philip Dorsett and Cordell Patterson. I mean, the quality of wins aren't really that high, but it's also the quality of losses they have on their record, losing to the 49ers and stuff like that. They need to start winning against other teams. Granted, like I said, Packers were hurt pretty badly. The Lions still did their job. They still won. That's why they gained 3 spots. This late in the season, I know it's not too late, week 6, but gaining 3 spots this late in the season is respectable, especially when you're below 500. So good for them. At number 23, a team that's probably going to continue sliding if it keeps up, the Atlanta Falcons, dropping 4 spots to number 23. I believe this is the lowest I've ever had the Falcons on my rankings. As long as I've been doing this, even privately doing this, that defense looks atrocious. I understand they lost 3 starters, but it's been a couple weeks now. Your fill-in players need to adjust, or if your excuse at the end of the year is, we lost Keanu O'Neal or something like that, we didn't have a good replacement, so we got exposed, and why the hell didn't you sign anybody like Eric Reed or one of the free safeties like Kenny Vaccaro or something like that to fill the hole when you could have? You didn't. Now it's too late to sign Eric Reed because he was the Panthers. So they dug their own hole with their secondary. Injuries, sometimes injuries sink a season. We saw it with the Chargers a couple years back, and we've seen it with the Patriots before. We've seen it with the Seahawks. It happens to some of the best teams, and I think the Atlanta Falcons could bounce back next year, but if their backups can start performing, maybe they'll start winning. But Matt Ryan can't carry this team on their own. But I do love the emergence of Calvin Ridley. If he can keep stepping up, maybe the Falcons have an easier time bouncing back. Taking pressure off of Julio Jones is very important. Then you have the Houston Texans at number 22 with a tough win over the Dallas Cowboys, but the offense relatively struggled when you think about it when facing a Dallas team. J.J. Watt and Jadeveon Clowney looked great. The offense, the passing game was better. It's probably the best it's been all season. At least it looked like that way. QD didn't really necessarily contribute like he can, but that's fine to me. The major beef I have with them, at least from this previous week, was their run game against the Cowboys. Granted, they didn't have Lamar Miller. Well, they had Lamar Miller active. They just didn't play him, probably because they wanted to keep him active just in case they needed him. Alfred Blue had a terrible game. It almost cost the Texans the game, but they did squeak out the win, so that is good right there. At number 21, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming off a bye week. I don't have much more faith than them. 21, they should probably be lower, and they probably will slide a little bit. I mean, teams I could see passing them this week: Texans, Falcons, Lions, even Jets or Bills with a win could probably pass them. They looked so good in the first 2 weeks, but this team looks like a shell of itself now. But they have so much talent that it's hard to put them too much lower. And then at number 20, we have the Seattle Seahawks. It's rare for me to actually put a team up on a loss, but this is a Seahawks team that has injuries, just lost Earl Thomas last week, and almost beat the Los Angeles Rams. They almost beat the Los Angeles Rams. That is incredible. Russell Wilson didn't necessarily have a great game. He had a good game, but not a great game. The defense played well. Pass rush played well. The secondary got a couple of turnovers, I believe, a couple of interceptions from Goff, which they can step up. If this team can be this, yeah, granted, it's middle of the pack, but it's a much more success than probably anybody projected you to have after you lost Earl Thomas. So keep it up, Seattle. Your team might not be championship bound, but it's bound for some good football if they can keep this up. At number 19, we have the Cleveland Browns, gaining 4 spots. Still not in the top half of the league. They are 2-2-1, so they are at 500 after 5 weeks, which is odd to say. But then again, there's a few teams at 500 after 5 weeks. I think there's 4 teams at 500 after 5 weeks, which is weird. But Browns gained 4 spots. They won a tough game against one of the top tier teams in the Ravens. Their defense looked stout against Joe Flacco. Their offense struggled and almost cost them the game, but they did enough to win it. The kicker looked shaky at times, Greg Joseph, but he's still getting better. He wasn't necessarily a great kicker in college. His percentage wasn't too high. So as he adjusts to the NBA, as he adjusts to the NFL level, he should get more consistent. Hopefully. One thing I will note about this Browns team is the kick on the game-winning field goal from so close being so low is a concern that there might be something wrong in the mechanics of Greg Joseph, and maybe that's why he's missing longer kicks. Who knows? At number 18, we have the Denver Broncos. Wanted to drop them a little bit more, but realistically, looking at the talent perspective, Corey Linsley, Royce Freeman, Von Miller, Bradley Chubb, they have a great team. Keenum's been struggling lately, yes. Their defense looked absolutely horrific and lost to the Jets. This is, or at least to me, I know they don't deserve to be so high, but they're a good football team with a lot of talent, and I want to see if they struggle again in consecutive weeks. It looked to me more like an off week, but I've been wrong before, so I do apologize if so. But I couldn't find too many or too many reasons to justify moving them below too many of the other teams below them, so that's another one reason why their fall got cushioned. I could definitely see reasoning for them to be 23rd or 24th or something like that. At number 17, we have the Miami Dolphins. They lost a game, yes, and they stay even at 17. But like I said before, I didn't want to shoot them too high when they were 3-0. I didn't want to be that person who's like, oh my god, this team's 3-0, they're a top 5 team in the league, blah, 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 blah. And then once they lose, drop them to 20th. It makes no sense to me. Miami is still a solid team. Granted, they are suffering injuries on the defensive line, and I think they're making up for it. But their secondary if you look at it, is still really good. Xavier Howard, or whatever his first name is, I always get it slightly wrong. Minka Fitzpatrick, they have potential in that secondary. Their offense looks a little out of it. Kenyon Drake had a good game, and their wide receivers are very capable. But Ryan Tannehill just needs to find that little oomph. And this team could be a contender for a wild card. I'm not ready to drop them down too low because they still are a good team who's capable of upsetting most. And then you have the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 16 getting 2 spots, trouncing the Atlanta Falcons without 3 starting defenders. Is a call to kind of hold back on the celebration. They are, I believe, 2-1, so the record isn't necessarily that great. They're still tied with the Cleveland Browns, which is funny because even in tiebreaker-wise, I believe they're still tied with the Cleveland Browns because of the head-to-head tie. But the offense looked better. Defense at times did look shaky, but the defense looked better as well. And if the offense and defense can keep up with this momentum, their climb is going to continue. And there's a couple teams above them that probably could realistically drop below as well. But one of the key reasons for the Steelers to not climb so high for me is inconsistency. And I love me some consistency. I don't care if you're below average, as long as you're consistently below average. I'll take it. Then you have the Eagles at number 15 dropping 5 spots. That's why they're on the right side here. The biggest dropper, after 6 weeks, it's not that common for a team to drop 5 or more spots or gain 5 or more spots. So when it happens, it tends to be due to certain situations. The Eagles lost the game they probably should have won against the Vikings. And I say probably should have won because some turnovers late or turnovers in the game in general. Losing Jay Ajayi for the season to a torn ACL is also a big deal in this situation. They do have weapons on that offense, but it's all about finding the gel to put it together, I should say. I don't know if they will sign a free agent running back to replace Jay Ajayi or if they'll just keep with a rotation of Clement, Smallwood, and stuff like that and be happy with that. The defense looks to be at least getting it together a little bit better in that offensive line. If they can click like they did last year, this team should be able to salvage its season. Hopefully, Jay gets back healthy next year. Also, quick note for the Eagles, Fletcher Cox restructuring his contract to allow the Eagles to sign their current players to extensions in the next couple of years is such a team player move. I love it. I really love it. He knows obviously what he's doing, sacrificing that amount of money, but as long as it keeps his team together, he's happy to do it, and that's incredible. A lot of people think with the Eagles clearing the cap space by restructuring the Fletcher Cox deal that Philadelphia might try to trade for Le'Veon Bell, but they said they are not trying to trade for Le'Veon Bell. They're not trying to clear room for that cap space. They're trying to clear cap space so they can re-sign their own players, because obviously the group they got together is special. It really is. They're just, to me, they're not clicking at 100% right now. They very well could at any week. Carson Wentz is still coming back off of injury. He doesn't look like his pre-injury self yet, but with some younger quarterbacks, it can take a while. Deshaun Watson doesn't necessarily look like himself quite yet, and who knows? He should find his. I think he should find his magic in the next coming weeks. With him and Alshon Jeffrey both coming back around the same time, it should be interesting. This is a good team to watch. It's a fun team to watch. If they're on national TV, watch them. They're fun. Even if they lose like they did against the Vikings, they usually play good football. And then you had number 14, we had the Redskins, who got torched by Drew Brees last night. Absolutely torched. Fun fact, all teams named after Native Americans, the Indians, Braves, and Redskins, all lost on Columbus Day. That is incredible. Because what's so special about that is the fact that the Indians and Braves both would have to make the postseason and to play on the same day in the same postseason, along with the same day of a football game, which Columbus Day is typically on a Monday, I believe, which would mean that the team would have to play on Monday Night Football. How it lined up is just incredible. It's a fun fact. Adrian Peterson, I think he said something about a separated shoulder and they have to get an MRI, so I'm waiting on that. They didn't look good. They looked like they beat themselves. Defense looked exposed almost all night. And it's just one of those games where they just look like they weren't playing like themselves. Maybe they got in their own heads a lot, but they had another game like that earlier in the year. I think they can bounce back. Around middle of the pack, I think is where they belong. They are leading the NFC East at 2-2, which is incredible. But they are a 500 team, so it's a little harder to put them up too much higher. And then at number 13, we have the Green Bay Packers. I debated with myself for a while on this one. They dropped 4 spots to 13. One reason why they didn't drop any lower, Aaron Rodgers. I believe the Lions had such a big lead on the Packers, and again, the Packers almost came back. That is absolutely terrifying. The Packers lost by 8, but they almost came back. Some mistakes based on turnovers and stuff like that. Yeah, it might have cost them the game, but what truly cost them the game here is 4 missed field goals from your starting kicker. You lost by 8. You lost by 8 points, which means if he made 3 of those 4, you would have won. So, bad game of the kicker. That's usually not in Crosby's character to be that bad in a single game, so I look for him to bounce back, and if he can actually make those kicks, I think they're in good position to win. They still got Aaron Rodgers, so I don't think they can justifiably be dropped too much lower. Maybe a few spots, so I apologize if you think they should be lower than your team. Feel free to say something in the comment section down below about who your team is and why they should be higher or lower. Feel free to criticize your own team. I do that sometimes a lot too. At number 12, we have the Tennessee Titans. Now, a lot of people felt like the Titans were criticized a lot and they weren't properly respected being in the top 10 of the league. I admit I had them kind of low in 11 last week, but something about those Titans said vulnerable. Now, granted, it might just be my crazy eye that sees this shit, but they lost to the Bills, and they lost spectacularly. Like, it wasn't a game that even watching it, you'd be like, they're going to lose. This team is outmatched, they're going to lose. It wasn't like that. Was it an upset? Probably the biggest upset of the week. Now, hopefully they bounce back. The Titans are a playoff contender. They got bailed out by a Jaguars loss as well when it comes to division standings. And they do have a good quarterback, running back, wide receiver situation. But some of those drops were costly, man. And if your wide receivers are going to drop balls like that, I can't place you too high because I keep preaching consistency. And you're consistent in dropping, which isn't good. But the defense looks incredible. The Titans defense does look incredible. Jarrell Casey is a monster. Anyway, Vikings, number 11. They move up 2 spots. So technically they just passed the Packers and Titans. They won a game. I believe they're now 500 at 2-2-1 as well. The defense is almost looking like the Vikings defense of last year. Almost. I believe they're a couple games away from maybe really revving that engine, which obviously early in the season is probably the good time to get the kinks out of your armor kind of thing. Vikings look better. Their run game does look kind of shaky this year, but one thing to note for the Vikings is Adam Thielen, holy shit, 5 straight games of 100+ yards for the first time in NFL history that's ever happened. Holy crap, this guy has a legitimate chance of breaking the NFL receiving record, and I know I speak early about that, considering we're now only going into week 6, but still, the fact that he's in position to do it is incredible. Anyway, next we have the top 10. One of the biggest gainers of the week, the LA Chargers, put together a solid performance of pass, rush, and defense. I don't know the status of Bosa, but I hope he comes back soon. I miss watching him play. They got one of the best defensive rookies in the league in Derwin James, I believe his name is. I do apologize if I'm wrong there. Lines up everywhere and plays well wherever he lines up. He was a steal in the draft, even where he was picked. This team is capable of beating anybody, but one thing that prevents them from being up too high is they're also capable of being beat by anybody. Hopefully they put up a little bit more consistency and another quality win. They could be a top 5 team. At number 9, we have the Baltimore Ravens losing a tough game to the Browns. defense didn't really look like Ravens defense of old. They had a lot of good plays, but they just made some mental mistakes that I'm not used to seeing the Baltimore Ravens make on defense. They held the Browns to, 12 points, something like that. So it's not really something you can really criticize the defense on. Probably the biggest weakness here was Joe Flacco and Alex Collins kind of, not choked, I don't want to say that word, but kind of missed opportunities in this game. And that's not something necessarily that I'm not really unfamiliar with. Joe Flacco, he is a good quarterback. I kind of want to gag saying that. He's reliable, I should say, but he does have bad games. I feel like this was one of those bad games. So granted, they might not deserve to be a top 10, but they did lose 4 spots from 5 to 9, which is a big deal heading into about mid-season. Do they bounce back? They probably will have to ride their defense for an AFC North title, but we'll see. At number 8, we have the New England Patriots. One reason why I moved the Patriots up 6 spots, and yes, they gained the most spots, is the return of Julian Edelman. One thing that made me hesitate last week, knowing Julian Edelman was coming back, was how would he play in his first game back after, missing 20 games? When you think about it, the last game he played was the Super Bowl against the Falcons. And the last game him and Gronk played together was almost 32 games ago before that game. I think it was 26 games ago before that game, which was incredible. So them, I didn't know how he would mesh in the system, and he got passed to early and often, had one costly drop in the game, but overall the Patriots played phenomenal football. They played good defense. Granted, it was against the Colts without T.Y. Hilton, so maybe it looked a little better than it would have if T.Y. Hilton played, because T.Y. Hilton is a monster. Sony Michel looked like a lead back, like someone who could very well be a lead back, which is something the Patriots haven't really had since LeGarrette Blount's, I would say, first run in New England. His second run was good, but he split carries a lot more, and I think Sony Michel's being featured a lot more, and he's getting better. He did miss training camp, so there was adjustments he needed to make, and with Edelman and Gronk back on the field, it's opening up Cordell Patterson more. Josh Gordon scored a touchdown. Brady scored his 500th touchdown, and Josh Gordon's touchdown was the 71st player to catch a touchdown pass from Tom Brady, which is an NFL record. The offense looks more opened up. Defense looks more solid. So I think it's more of a correction than I kind of hesitated a little bit last week. They do face the Kansas City Chiefs, so depends on how competitive the Patriots are in this one. If they get absolutely blown out, they might just drop again. And then number 7, Cincinnati Bengals had a great win. It was weird watching this because I think at the beginning of the game the offense carried them a little bit and the defense struggled. But then at the end of the game, the defense ended up picking up and just winning the game for them. I've never seen a defense necessarily clutch it like that. I haven't seen that in a long time. I won't say I never seen it. It did cost the Miami Dolphins, but the Dolphins were in position to win. That's another reason why the Dolphins didn't drop. But we're talking about the Bengals. Dalton looked better. The running back situation is kind of a concern for me with Giovanni Bernard now out as soon as Joe Mixon comes back. But at least they're not both out at the same time. Boyd is looking like a true number 2 receiver. Boyd actually, to me, I will say this, probably like a bold statement saying it, but Boyd looks like he could be a number 1 on several teams. He looks really, really good. Hopefully, Marvin Lewis doesn't waste his potential. Then we have the Bears at number 6, gaining a spot almost into the top 5 off a bye week, which is not easy. What I'm waiting for to see, I could have put him top 5, but I want to see if Mitch Trubisky can string together another performance like he had last time before the bye, where he had 6 touchdowns. Now, I'm not asking him to throw 6 touchdowns again. I just want him a couple touchdowns, much more consistent performance, much more offensive-based game. They are in a great position with Jordan Howard, Tariq Cohen. The wide receivers are really stepping up. Trey Burton looks to be a number 1 tight end, which is good. Not a lot of people thought he would be too great out of Philadelphia. But he's really stepping up, which is good. And that defense, that fucking Chicago defense, I don't want the Patriots to face them. Khalil Mack scares the living crap out of me. And then at number 5, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars, who got bent over, spanked, pants rolled down, spanked again, and stuck their tongue to the pole just for the Chiefs to pull down their pants while they stuck to the pole and spanked again. Bortles looked like Bortles. And by that I mean he looked like old Bortles. He's been consistent most of the year, but he just struggled so badly in that game. Leonard Fournette's now on IR. And that defense got gassed. Jalen Ramsey, most of the game, looked tired. But I'm not going to say that's going to happen every week. Jalen Ramsey is an all-pro corner, so I'm going to show him the respect he deserves. Sometimes there are games where you're just not there. And sometimes you get gassed a little easier, and you're facing someone who's a cheetah like Tyreek Hill. I think the defense bounces back. Hopefully Bortles comes back, and I believe I heard reports of them signing Jamal Charles at running back to help replace the hole of replace the hole of Corey Grant. I don't think Fournette went on IR. I'm going to have to double check. I know Corey Grant went on IR. I'm going to have to check on... Yeah, I don't think Leonard Fournette's on IR. I do apologize for that. But it does look like Fournette's going to miss the upcoming game against the Cowboys. So as he rehabs, I should say, Charles coming in should be a nice compliment to TJ Yeldon. At number 4, we have the Carolina Panthers. Not much to say here. Defense played well. Offense played better. Well, defense played well for the most part, I should say. Offense played better. When your kicker can make a 63-yard field goal, and it's a close game from now on, if they're down by 2 and they're in that range, they could confidently pass to him and have they could confidently give the ball to him, let him try to kick it, and have no complaints. And that in this NFL is so crucial. If you look at the Vikings, the Browns, the Rams, with their kicker situations right now, not a lot of teams in the NFL would give their kicker a ball from that and be like, hey, when is this game? A lot of teams would just be like, hey, we're going to try to Hail Mary this thing or do some trick lateral play. So good for them. One reason why they're top 4, even after a close game against the Giants, is consistency. Plus, if you saw that game, holy shit, that block Cam Newton laid on that defender, he freaking knocked him out of next week. But they're a very consistent team, and I really like that. So I give them bonus points. Maybe I give them bonus points for that, but that is my system. This is my rankings. This is just how I see it. It's not anything official. And at number 3, we have the Saints pushing for our top 2 spot when there are two undefeated teams is not easy. If the Patriots somehow beat the Chiefs, Saints are primed to take a top 2 spot. I think they were at top 2 at some point last year as well, in my book. I'm not sure. I'll have to actually check back at the page. But Saints, Drew Brees setting the record for most yards in the NFL passing in history is incredible. I'm happy for him. They played well. They beat a team that was previously 2-1. So good on them. They're in control of the NFC South right now, with the Panthers, I believe, right behind them. Or they could be tied. I'm not sure if there's tiebreakers or if they are tied at all. I should double check that. But they look to be at least, if they don't win the division, they are definitely poised right now to take a wild card, which is perfect. They're in position for the playoffs. And at number 2, we have for the first time, a new number 1. So at number 2, we have the LA Rams. Now, both these teams at 1 and 2, the Rams and Chiefs, I'll say it now, they switch places. Rams number 2, Chiefs number 1, because going over both of them, they coincide with each other, so I do apologize. Rams drop a spot. They had a shaky game against the Seahawks, barely won. They won by 2 points. And that shaky performance, coinciding with the Chiefs dominating probably one of the AFC favorites in the Jaguars and dominating that powerful defense, is a huge sign that the Chiefs are here and they are dangerous. And the Chiefs defense did click a little bit more. That was also important. That consistent performance from the Chiefs defense was incredible. I think right now the Chiefs are the number 1 team in the NFL. Part of it's because of that offense, but another part of it is, yes, they are both 5-0. But the Rams did struggle, and the Chiefs did bam the Jags in the face. Quality of win is important in my power rankings, and the Chiefs just had a better quality of win right now. Will it change again in the future? Maybe. These teams are both 5-0, so if they both go 16-0, then it's probably going to be like quality of win from week to week that changes them every now and then. And guys, thank you for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe if you are new, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.